You're not alone, together we stand.
What would you classify as bullying?
I would classify bullying as anything that is meant to intimidate, to create power over someone, to make someone feel belittled, insecure, unsafe, physically, emotionally, psychologically, any of that.
So the first question is, what would you classify as bullying?
Well, bullying can take many forms as far as how it manifests. It can be through physical, obviously hitting, that sort of bullying. So physical aggression can also be more verbal and social in nature, in that things like exclusion is considered bullying. The mean girl stuff that we hear about, spreading rumors and through social media, that sort of thing. So bullying can really take the form of many things.
How does bullying hurt the bullies?
Bullying hurts the bullies in that it gains them self-esteem initially. Part of why they bully is because they have lower self-esteem, and so that gaining power over someone else makes them feel better about themselves. But in the end, it's not a tactic that's a good coping strategy for later life in adulthood. So they haven't learned the appropriate skills in order to be able to relate well with others, to be able to develop a sense of who they are and a sense of their own self-esteem. So it stunts their growth to a large degree.
The next question, how does bullying hurt the bullies?
How does bullying hurt the bullies? That's a good question. Well, I think that people, especially now, are very aware. It's a topic that's talked about a lot. It's brought to the surface, whereas before, many years ago, maybe the bully was considered more held in a higher esteem because they had power over people. Now it's looked at as more of a negative, obviously, because they're traumatizing people, and we now know that. And so in terms of how it affects the bully, I think it creates a climate of negativity around them, and people don't want to be around them, so it's going to create not only people not wanting to be with them if they can see what they're doing, which could cause them to then be isolated and have depression and social issues, and so it affects them too.
Okay, so what did it feel like to be bullied? It was hard. It felt like I was alone, and I was angry a lot, and it really, really hurt. I can't really describe it because for a while I was just really unhappy, and being bullied is probably one of the worst things that I've had to go through ever, and I wouldn't even wish it upon my worst enemy, because to have people that you thought were your friends, or have people that you don't really know hate you and talk about you, and it sucks. How did bullying affect my personality? Mostly, I became a tougher person, and I'm more compassionate to people that I don't know, and I'm nicer to people because of it. Bullying made me a better person. I guess it just made me realize how it feels. So, and what would I like people to know about bullying? That your words do have impact. Your words can make someone's day, or they could force someone to kill themselves. Like, your words matter, and what you say does matter, and it matters a lot. And you can stop. If you're a bully, you can stop. And if you're being bullied, you can say something to make it stop. It doesn't have to be like that. How can a school community promote an anti-bullying atmosphere?
One of the things is that social scientists would argue is that when you have students cooperate instead of compete, you're more likely to develop a culture and an environment that provides an opportunity for students to get to know each other in a way that allows them to have better understanding of each other, and is less likely to promote trying to gain power over someone. So cooperation, not tolerating behavior that is intimidating, and not necessarily zero tolerance kinds of things, because that tends to simply look at after the fact, but rather developing in students skills of empathy and compassion so that they are better aware of how another person feels, and so they're much less likely to harm somebody else when they understand what that might feel like.
How can a school community promote an anti-bullying atmosphere?
Well, there are a lot of answers to that question, really. There's a lot of curriculums out there, anti-bullying curriculum. I mean, you've probably already researched it online, and you Google it, you can see what's out there. There's all kinds of programs that schools can implement, and I know here in Clovis there are some elementary schools that are doing that. I think just from a high school perspective, establishing a climate of openness where students feel comfortable reporting bullying, where they feel like there is something, they're not powerless over it, that they can report it, that something will happen to the aggressor.
Can you explain the bystander effect?
The bystander effect is what takes place when there is some event where someone is being harmed and there are witnesses or observers. And what happens is the greater the number of people that are observing, the less likely the observers are to become involved. And the reason for that is that they don't feel responsible. It's called a diffusion of responsibility. So the more bystanders there are, the less likely we are to help, because we think somebody else is going to do it. Why aren't they doing it? We have all kinds of questions going through our head. The way to fix that for anyone who might be bullied is to simply ask for help, not from the general crowd, but hey, you in the red shirt, John, if I know their names, go get a teacher. Can somebody help? Those kinds of things, because then it's not the crowd's responsibility, it becomes you in the red shirt or John's responsibility, and you're much more likely to help when it's your job.
Okay, so at my old school, we had this after-school program, and we just sat there and we did arts and crafts and homework, and it was stupid. But we had physical education time, where we'd run around and we'd have to do miles and stuff. It sucked. And afterwards, we had a fountain that had just two drinks. And there was about 30 of us, so 15 per fountain, yeah. And so I'm waiting in line, and this kid is taking forever, and he's just drinking and drinking and drinking, and he's just taking forever. So I'm like, yo, excuse me, the rest of us need to get some water too. And he turns around and he spits the water that's in his mouth at me. And then he pushes me to the back of the line. And I never got any water because we ran out of time outside. And so the rest of the day, which was the after school hours were about 4 hours, so for like good 3 hours, I was just dehydrated and I passed out. I passed out and I woke up and I guess the teachers weren't paying attention. And they let the other students, arts and crafts, draw stuff on me. Not on my face, just like on my clothes and on my body. And so that was an experience, and that wasn't too bad considering the other things.